Doinkers Fantasy Football Podcast. Nick Meyer and Willie J. This is the Week 6 recap. We're going to talk about some of the best and worst matchups, best and worst teams, and give you our picks for next week, Week 7. So what's going on, Willie? How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain. This was a weird week for football. I was actually coming down from Washington. I was up doing a trip with my girlfriend, and I was listening to Red Zone on my phone. I wasn't watching it, but I had it I had it open, and then off to the side, and I was listening, and it was.
I do that pretty often, or it's like, yeah, you miss some things, but you get enough of it really to hear when like the splash plays happen.
Exactly, yeah, and I was able to pay attention because I was just driving.
Mm-hmm.
Except I went to some period where there was like a internet glitch or like some like dead zone of internet, and I missed the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter for like several games. So I didn't get the end of the Panthers game, the end of the Dolphins game. I think all four of the games were ones that were super close to. So
Yeah, there's a lot of like one score or really close games at the end of the first period of games on Sunday,
yeah.
which was good because I had to travel to Utah and I was there for some family stuff, and like I tried to watch a lot of the games, but there were parts that I missed a ton of. So this is one of the weeks where, one, as we're going to discuss here soon, things went very differently than I had envisioned they went, and two, I didn't necessarily get all the details on why they went that way. I will tell you this though, and I'm sure that some listeners felt the same way at some point. I was incredibly frustrated at the end of this week. I was like, wow, that couldn't have gone more like just worse for me than it did. I think I'm in like 4 leagues. I could barely like win even in one.
Dang,
Which,
yeah.
like there's diversified players. So it's not just like one or two players are sinking all my teams. This is like it's a personal vendetta. That's what I pretend to think, but I know that in my heart that's not true.
My week was very mediocre, but it was completely saved by Bijan. Just going off on Monday Night Football,
Mm-hmm.
I think he got close to like a third of my points, if not a little more. And
In,
I
in,
won the matchup because of him easy.
yeah, in my main league, I went against Bijan. Now I was already down by like 40 points when Bijan went up, so it was just more, like salt in the wound at that point. It was he didn't need it, so it didn't hurt me. But also watching it, I'm like, wow, I was destined. This one was a bad one for me.
Yeah,
I also got the great pleasure against going against Lad McConkey on the 1 week. He finally decides to show up. Like that's pretty cool.
yeah.
Um, just it's been a fun few weeks for my team in here.
I was a little annoyed, and I think the NFL might be scaling this back, but I was really invested in the Falcons Bills game because it was close and there's a lot of offense. But then obviously I had to watch the Bears game, so I had to switch over and just watch that. And it's weird that we had two Monday games that were scheduled like part of them were part of the same time zone or the time slot. So I don't know if the NFL is going to keep doing that. If that was
Well, they're doing it again this week. So this week you've got Detroit against Tampa Bay, and then you've also got Seattle versus Houston. Those are both Monday night games. And I can understand they're like, okay, well, Monday night, that's a great like ratings gatherer for us. So what if we just do two? But also, like, they're not very easy to get. They're
yeah,
not
yeah,
on network TV, so it's like you
yeah,
actually have to like work to get these games, and then you can only watch part of them because they're happening at the same time.
yeah.
I agree with you. It's either the fact that I'm, like just don't have enough time because I've got kids or something, but having these two games back to back like this and at the same time and overlapping just makes both of them feel worse.
Yeah, it does, and I have NFL Plus on my phone, so I was able to watch it, but on my phone.
Hmm.
And I mean, I guess if the one bright side is if there's two games set up this week, clearly Bucks Lions is the game to watch. So it won't be hard to pick this week.
I'm a little intrigued by the Seahawks Houston game, but we'll talk about that. I like this matchup because it's two teams that seem like they have kind of an offense and really good
Really,
defenses right now. And
yeah,
I think this will be a good matchup to see which like offense is actually for real and finding the rhythm and which one might be fake. And I have opinions on which is which, but we'll talk about
it's
that.
fair. I like that. I like the Bucks Lions just because that's my early NFC Championship prediction. So
Man, this is gonna be a fun game. I mean, regardless of it all, Baker Mayfield is playing his heart out there. Um,
he is. I mean, he's my MVP pick through 6 weeks.
It's hard to argue against that. For
Yeah.
it's for me, it's either him or it's Daniel Jones, which is never not something I'd ever say. And it's not really Daniel Jones. It's not really that close between the two.
No,
But
but still,
I mean, he's got the Colts as the number one seed in the AFC right now. That's bananas.
it's not even really close either. Like,
You
yeah,
find me one person who guessed the Colts would be the number one seed in the AFC through any like significant amount of weeks, and I would be shocked.
I put them as the worst team in the AFC. So what I don't know.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
was probably my worst take preseason take.
If it, yeah, and who would have guessed? Really, like literally, who would have guessed? No one, I don't think. Um, let's jump into news because we can continue talking about the week that happened because the news for this week has been there's a lot of it. I'm gonna just kind of go team by team here. So we're gonna start off with the Arizona Cardinals. Amari DiMercado seemed to have gotten hurt. He hurt his ankle. He hasn't been practicing thus far this week. They also Bam Knight hurt his knee, but that happened at some.
Was it?
It's ambiguous.
Yeah, I think it was it like Saturday or like early Sunday morning practice, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I don't expect Bam Knight to be an issue of missing. I do expect Amari DiMercado to be an issue of missing. Um, which for him and whatever happened with him and the coach, that might be the best for everybody is for him to just get a couple weeks off.
yeah. Regardless, Michael Carter is going up against the Packers' run defense this week, so I'm just not interested in that backfield at all.
No, no, they Jacoby Brissett didn't look particularly bad. I didn't think it was like as big a downgrade as I had imagined it would be. It was against the Colts, and they had a lead for a significant portion of that game. The Marvin Harrison Jr. did leave early in that game because he got a concussion.
Yeah,
He hit his head on the turf going down with a catch, and he got taken out of the game. It sounds like he's already out limited practice on Wednesday. And if you're someone who's following concussion trends, that usually means they play pretty fast if he can get into full practice. But you're gonna want to watch for that full practice. If he
yeah,
doesn't get the full practice, he's not playing.
yeah. If he's not full practice by Friday, he's not going to play.
Hmm. Um, and in which case, like, let's talk about who you could play. So Michael Carter and Bam Knight would both be in there. They would get the significant amount of the carries. I imagine Michael Carter with the larger amount, but who knows? They're they're doing some funky stuff over there in Arizona,
Yeah.
and it is against Green Bay, and then they go on by. So
What's
I'm not hugely invested in these guys at this point. Like it doesn't feel like a great situation.
I mean, Brissett like gave some spark to the offense, which was good, but also he gave enough. Kyler has been kind of up and down, and if you're going into the bye, there's really no reason to start Kyler in this game.
Yeah, and it does get better. So after the bye, week 9, you have them going against the Cowboys. But that is, of course, since we haven't even started week 7, that's 3 weeks away, really, at this point.
I
So
think
that's a long way to hold. And when does Trey Benson come back? Do you know off the top of your head?
I was gonna say I think that might be the week he is most likely to come back,
Hmm.
especially with the bye week 8.
One thing I don't like, and this is just as a fantasy player for a long time, is I don't really like when teams start switching their starting running back in a rotation like this because you're kind of playing roulette. You don't know which one it is, and when you have 3 players that are all almost kind of the same tier,
Yeah,
you
it's
like if you started Michael Carter this week, he did. I won't say good. He certainly didn't do good. He did okay in PPR, only okay, and
yeah,
and really
very
not what you wanted.
yeah,
But you're gonna run this risk if you play into these guys. One of them's gonna just bomb out. One of them's gonna get a touchdown,
yeah.
and so I don't love that anyways.
And Michael Carter looked better than Bam Knight, but that's just because Bam Knight got the touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. Which is unfortunate. Yeah, you're watching him, you're like, okay, this is good. And then he doesn't get the touchdown. You're like, well, that game kind of stunk. And that's what
Yeah,
it's going to be every single week with these guys. You can start Bam Knight next week and he won't score a touchdown. He'll get you 3 points, and Michael Carter gets you 11. It's not great. And um, so that's my long way of saying the Cardinals running backs, you're going to want to probably sit them this week.
yeah.
Baltimore Ravens, Cooper Rush left the game. I don't think he actually got injured, though. I think they just
Got
had him
benched.
leave the game.
Yeah,
So it
it's,
means Tyler Huntley Snoop is in. But they are on bye this week, and hopefully that'll give time for Lamar Jackson to actually get healthy.
I think he should take 2 weeks to just really fully rest up and get healthy. Like just come back week 9 fully charged up. Like I don't think his week 8 matchup is really important for him to play in. So
Yeah, I can understand why you think that. I don't think it matters. I think their defense has been bad enough, which we'll talk about here shortly, that it just doesn't seem to matter. Um,
Yeah, I just feel like against the Bears that Lamar would still win that game single handedly. It's all it would take is just him being in the game.
Maybe, maybe. I mean, I don't know. Roma Dunze could have like 6 touchdowns in that game. I'm definitely over exaggerating for anyone who's listening to this. It'd be more like 3. Uh, Cincinnati Bengals lost their tight end Mike Gesicki, and they also lost Trey Hendrickson for the game, but I think he's gonna play. It sounds like he's fine.
Yeah, I think he was like limited at practice today. I think I read
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah, they're not worried about him.
yeah, well, he
Um,
plays tomorrow night. That's the only thing is that they play tomorrow night. So or tonight if you're listening to this on Thursday.
yeah, and unfortunately, Mike Gesicki, it doesn't really. If Joe Burrow was there, it might matter to someone. With Joe Flacco there,
Yeah,
he looked better. He certainly did look a lot better than we've seen with Jake Browning, but I don't think it's enough to move the needle on like the tertiary players right now.
I think it gives maybe some interest in Noah Fant being the sole tight end there now, and just having seen Joe Flacco really enjoy throwing to his tight ends, especially later in his career. It's something to look at, but he would have to provide enough spark to the offense as a whole to even consider streaming Noah Fant. It's just something to look at.
Yeah, and I mean, so if you look at the Steelers as far as like their defense goes, it hasn't been good. It's been very middle of the pack from what I've seen, as far, especially for like passing. Now, I do wonder, and I don't have this right off the top of my head, how their linebackers have done against covering tight ends, because that could be an interesting idea. But I'm not
Yeah,
overly interested in Noah Fant because I feel like that's a dart throw on a team that hasn't proven that they deserve dart throws yet.
well said.
Cleveland, they lost David Njoku. It's uncertain how long that is, and there's a major beneficiary to this. Fannin. So Harold Fannin Jr. Of the Cleveland Browns. Here we go. We'll get out here. Uh, if he is alone in the tight end room, he's already been getting a ton of targets, but David Njoku has unfortunately like to snatch up some of those touchdowns. If Harold Fannin is the only guy there, I actually think he's becoming a pretty good play.
Honestly, he might be like my favorite, at least in terms of upside, favorite pass catcher in this offense. Because I mean, you see Jerry Judy being more or less the de facto wide receiver one,
Hmm.
but he disappoints on a weekly basis. And Harold Fannin had more receptions and nearly twice as many yards as Judy in this game.
Hmm.
And
And you did call. I want to point this out in your gut checks. You gave an extra for the Browns tight ends.
I did, yeah. And honestly, like Njoku wasn't looking great before he got injured, but he had 28 yards, 3 receptions. He was very least heavily involved in the passing
Hmm.
game.
Hmm.
Gabriel's not going to be passing 52 times each and every week, but at the very least, like especially while Njoku's out, Fannon's is going to be like a startable tight end, I think.
Yeah, and I think it is worth mentioning that he did pass 52 times, so that usually inflates the stats of the pass catchers because they get a lot more targets because there's so many targets to go around.
Yeah.
However, I think even if you take that early game portion where Njoku was there, if you put all of those targets into one tight end, which I know that's not how this works, but we're gonna play some mental games here. That's like 7 targets probably in the first 2 quarters for the tight ends. And if Harold Fan's the guy out there, you love that.
Yeah, I think if Njoku didn't play, he would have gotten over 100 yards pretty easily.
Hmm. Hmm. So I'm, if Harold Fannon's out there and available for you, I think he's an easy pickup play him. At least until Njoku's back. I don't really care what team they're going against. The Cleveland Browns are one of those weird teams where it doesn't seem like the matchup matters. They're strange. They don't
Yeah.
do. They're not very good. And if you had Quinshon Judkins, you felt pretty bad. I can tell you that much. Pittsburgh, which how good has Pittsburgh been against the run this year? Up to that point, not very good.
Yeah. I think they've slowly gotten better each week, but they're not what you expect out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so it's been interesting, and the Browns have also been interesting. Who knows really like what you're gonna get each week with them right now? They're starting a rookie 3rd round pick. It's all up in the air. However, like I said, good call on the tight ends. Harold Fannin is someone you probably want in your lineup if you can get him.
Yeah.
The Packers lost Dontavian Wicks. I'm uncertain exactly how long that is, but that with the Packers, the thing is, it's not that it matters which one of the wide receivers gets hurt. Every single time a wide receiver gets hurt, there's a little bit more clarity on who might be involved.
Might be, yeah.
Hmm.
This was a quasi breakout game for Matthew Golden. He only had 3 receptions, but he turned it into 86 yards. He pretty easily led the team in yardage. And I mean, with the Wicks injury, like I think Tucker Kraft is still the clear number one pass catcher on this team, but I mean, it's Kraft, Golden, and Dubes, and like maybe a sprinkle of like Musgraves and some Josh Jacobs in the receiving game. But it's starting to become more clear. But this is just what what I considered the whole offseason is that you just don't want any Packers receivers. It's yeah.
What do you think about Christian Watson coming back? Do you think that hurts again?
Oh, I forgot about Christian Watson coming back. I don't know. I have to see it because he's gotten a couple significant injuries in his career, and the last one he got it was I think ACL and MCL I want to say, and he's been out for a whole year. I mean, he could just come back and look pretty bad. I
Yeah,
don't know.
his agent got him an extension somehow while he was
That's
rehabbing,
agent.
which
Yeah,
was sick for the agent to do. So they say that they have big plans for him. I have a hard time seeing him come in and doing anything that's different from the rest of this wide receiver group, and that is boom or bust. Like one of
yeah,
these guys is going to blow up each week, and if you roulette right, you've done well, and if you don't, it hurts.
yeah,
Um, which it's unfortunate because I really wish a good team like this would have a wide receiver you could really just tap into. I think you're right. Tucker Kraft is the guy to, if anyone.
yeah.
Colts. This doesn't really matter as far as fantasy goes, but Anthony Richardson is on IR. He got an orbital fracture while
Freak
warming up.
freak injury. He was like using one of those pulley belt things, and it just snapped in his eye.
It sucks. I'm sorry, Anthony Richardson. Like it's been a bad year for you, and then you break your eye bone.
Only him, dude.
So yeah, it won't matter fantasy wise because if you were seeing Anthony Richardson, something bad had happened for this team, or something really good had happened for this team.
I got a question. Your opinion. I have Anthony Richardson in Dynasty, and obviously he's not a drop candidate, but even less. He's even less of a trade candidate. I think at this point. I just I don't know where. I just don't see him on the Colts next year, regardless of how big or long the Daniel Jones extension is inevitably going to be. I just don't see him on the team next year. So even if they're trading him for a day 3 pick, I don't know.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing him going to a team and starting right away, a la like Fields or something, just because he's had so few reps.
Exactly.
He'll have to still learn how to be a quarterback. He just hasn't done it, you know.
No, no, and even in college at Florida, he didn't do it.
So that's my thought is you're gonna get a team that's gonna pick him up as a backup, I think, and with like the hopes of maybe molding him into something. Let's say, gonna guess a lot of things here. Let's say Aaron Rodgers goes again in Pittsburgh. I can see
It's-
him being a backup in Pittsburgh. Um, and then them trying to see if they have anything there, and then dumping him after a year.
yeah. What about like in Detroit behind Jared Goff?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how much of the Detroit's offense relies on. Because I mean, Jared Goff wasn't. He was good on the Rams, but he wasn't the same Jared Goff that he is on the Lions. Jared
Yeah,
Goff on the Rams was talent and bad decision making.
yeah,
And I think you could almost apply that to Anthony Richardson, but Anthony Richardson doesn't have the accuracy as a quarterback to make some of the throws that Jared Goff makes.
yeah. That's true. And he doesn't have like the reps. Like at least Goff, like they put him out there as even though he had a terrible freshman year, they threw him out there and he was actually getting the reps in.
But maybe, I mean, here's a good scenario for him as a backup, I think, would be Philadelphia.
Yeah,
He could be the perfect backup to Jalen Hurts, and then if he goes out, then Anthony Richardson gets to do the tush push. That'd probably be a pretty sick little setup.
I like that. I like that idea for Anthony Richardson or honestly Justin Fields too to go to
Hmm.
Philadelphia and be the backup.
Um,
Anyway,
yeah. Side note: that's Anthony Richardson's future prognosticated right here on the
yeah,
spot.
my answer to my question about what to do in Dynasty is just hold and forget.
Yeah, hold on, forget. Kansas City Chiefs lost a left tackle. No, he was. I'm sorry, they didn't lose him. He was out and added to the injury report for personal reasons.
Was that Juwan
Josh
Jennings?
Simmons.
John, the rookie. Okay, okay,
Hmm. But it's a family matter, so it doesn't sound like that'll be a long term thing.
okay.
The Raiders running back Dylan Laube hurt his hamstring. Doesn't really affect your fantasy very much.
Is Michael Mayer injured or Brock? What's up with Brock Bowers and
Brock Bowers is only likely to play soon if the Raiders can win a few games. That's my understanding. Otherwise, Pete Carroll said there's really no reason to trot him back out there if he's hurt.
okay, that's good.
So
Good decision.
It is a good decision. They should throw him on IR, honestly, just, like, get rid of the whole entire temptation of it all.
Yeah.
Like, just throw him on IR, let him heal up. If he's hurt, he's hurt.
Yeah.
He's a second-year, potentially all-pro player for a long time, like, just get him right,
Yeah.
especially with this team. We'll talk about them. We're talking about them now. The Raiders won a game against the Titans and got Bill Callahan fired. And I will just say this, because if you don't know, the Callahans and the Raiders have a lot of history together. Steve Callahan, his dad, was the coach of the Raiders when they went to the Super Bowl.
Mm.
And if in 2002, and if you remember that 2002, they went against John Gruden even, who had been the head coach the year prior.
Right. He was coaching the Bucks, right?
Yeah, and so Steve Callahan decided, hey, you know what? This playbook we got from Gruden is awesome. We're just going to keep using it, and didn't change up any of the play calls or any of the signals. Didn't do anything. So like, what did he do as a coach? Who knows? And they totally blew it. The Bucks knew every single player they were calling. They knew where every single person would be. And Rich Gannon, who I believe won the MVP that year, threw 5 picks in the Super Bowl.
Whew.
And so Steve Callahan, he got fired, and he deserved it. He was a big goof. And so getting Bill Callahan fired out of Tennessee
I think
was wonderful.
the icing on the cake is that his dad, Bill Steve Callahan, was the O-line coach at Tennessee, and he's basically was like, "Well, you're firing my son. I'm out of here too." So
Yeah.
he took off with his son.
It's great. I did hear that the Titans didn't really care specifically about losing to the Raiders. It wasn't losing to the Raiders that did it. It's that they didn't want to lose to Mike Vrabel
Oh
with their
yes,
new coach if he stunk.
yeah. Because that, I mean, if they lost to Mike Vrabel, like even if he had say the Titans had won the Raiders game, but it was still kind of shaky. If they lost to Mike Vrabel, just given what he's done so far, you can't.
No,
Yeah.
you can't.
And I'm
So
still of the belief that if they had beaten the Raiders, that would have been their first win of the year because I think really the Cardinals just lost that game. Titans
yeah,
didn't do
yeah,
anything to win. So
100%. I mean, I have some hope for the Titans that this makes them look like they care. Because the hard part with the Titans watching them is that the offense is so vanilla and no one looks like they have any like this is weird to say, but passion. Like they just don't look like they have any like oomph behind them. Um, they're just out there going through the motions, and they keep losing because they can't seem to figure out how to get energetic when they need to.
yeah, and I mean maybe there was probably I mean a big reason was probably playing under Callahan, and also like I think to summarize it, Cam Ward came out in that interview and said that to keep it a buck, we're butt basically. He was very transparent. His media training is not very good, and I love it. He just whatever.
I hope that the new like round of quarterbacks that comes out are all like this. I
Yeah,
would love it to be like because we need sports interviews that aren't super boring. Like I
yeah.
would love a reason to actually listen to them. That would be amazing.
And what does he have to lose? I mean, he's the number one overall pick. He's making millions of dollars. Like he can, yeah, yeah.
He's not blaming other people either. He's like
Oh yeah,
checking all the boxes. He's not throwing someone under the bus. He's just saying we suck,
yeah.
including me. He gave himself an F grade.
I saw that. Yeah,
Like good for you. You're like you're doing the thing.
yeah.
Okay, so the Rams, Blake Corum got hurt. We'll start there. I don't know when he got hurt. He seemed to go out like the exact same time that our next guy, Puka Nacua, went out.
And then came back for some reason, and I don't
Yeah,
know how many snaps he had, but still, I don't think he was. I think he was out and then came back.
and then Puka got hurt on what was almost one of the most amazing touchdown catches we'd have ever seen. I really do wish it happened. He like almost one-handed mossed a guy, and instead he ended up like banging his ankle on the defender's knee.
That's the ankle injury.
It didn't look from what I saw, it didn't look particularly bad. They say he might miss a couple weeks. I'm gonna guess that it probably won't be very long because he really did just bang his ankle on someone's knee. That probably hurts really bad and probably messes with some mechanisms, but it doesn't seem like it broke or tore anything.
Yeah, and they didn't mention it being like serious enough to go on IR. They just said he was a long shot to play week 7, and that they just kind of left it at that. So I,
Mhm.
I would hope that I think they also are one of the teams that have a week 8 bye. So I would hope that they just rest him 2 weeks and just call it good. And they're playing in London this week. So like if Puka is even like a possibility of playing, like trotting him all the way over there to play, it's just recipe.
Yeah, you don't really want to do that.
No.
Um, the Jets lost Garrett Wilson. That's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
He hasn't been put on IR yet, and I believe it is. I when it was first reported, it was a hip injury. I don't think it was ended up being a hip injury though.
It's
I can't remember off the top of my head.
it's a hyperextended knee, and it kind of reminds me of the injury Kelsey got 2 years ago, where he missed, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. Um, like hyperextended. So it wasn't even that it was like injured. He just, I mean, it was injured, but it wasn't like a tear or like a bruise or anything. It was just like a tweak of some sort, but enough to keep him out a couple games. And like, why should he play the rest of the season if I'm him? Like, why play him?
Yeah, I mean, he's been dealing with this his whole career at this point. Just he's on the Jets and they can't seem to put it together.
No,
Who on the Jets besides Mason Taylor? Because Mason Taylor's the only dart thrower that you've seen do this before. But who on the Jets could actually pop out and be useful now?
I mean, uh, I've heard a few other analysts say that like don't even consider going to the waiver wire to pick up. But like the thing is, Garrett Wilson gets so much volume that there it has to be a beneficiary or two on this team, even if it's just as a streaming option. And I really think that it is Mason Taylor, and I don't see anyone else on his team to get excited about really.
You don't imagine Alan Lazard making some crazy comeback right now, do you?
I don't even think he had a reception this week. I I mean Josh Reynolds looks like the de facto wide receiver too, but
What's that worth, really?
what is it
I
worth?
mean, but that one of them's going to be a wide receiver one. I only wonder because usually when I hear someone say don't even consider, I think that we're just being a little bit like rash and
Yeah,
moving on from a situation that might actually have an answer. Mason Taylor's the clear answer. I do agree with that.
yeah,
You should start with Mason Taylor. He's probably picked up already after the last 2 weeks he had.
it's true.
Um, I don't think it hurts to pick up Josh Reynolds if you're in dire shapes, um, because
Is
there's
it
a chance.
If you're a Garrett Wilson owner and you have room, I definitely would
Mhm.
consider it. Um,
Because like Justin Fields isn't going to just stop throwing the ball. It hasn't looked particularly good, but he's not just going to stop throwing the ball. That's not how the NFL works. So one of these guys will get some opportunity to have volume. And if you're in a PPR league, you can get 11 points through volume.
yeah,
You can Wandale Robinson your way to 8 catches, 31 yards.
yeah.
I just say keep an eye on that situation. If you're in real bad shape with wide receivers, which a lot of people are, because a lot of wide receivers have gotten hurt, there could be actual help here.
And like you said, it would be buoyed by like PPR because I mean
Mhm.
Garrett Wilson has been really great this season, all things considered. But the reason he's been really great in fantasy is because he's getting so many receptions, and
Exactly.
those have to go somewhere.
Exactly, 100%. Like you can get points off of PPR and be happy with it. I remember, I think his name was Crowder for
James,
years.
yes, I remember.
Jamison Crowder. He was never really like a great downfield threat, but he was always relevant to a team because you could flex play him if you needed to because he would just catch 6 passes for 20 yards. That's 8 points. It's not great, but it's something.
He was something. I think he was even relevant somewhat on the Bills, and I want to say the Commanders after he left the Jets because I think he was still one of like a he was like a wide receiver three on those teams that was still getting receptions.
Hmm. Um, the the Steelers didn't lose any offensive players, so we'll move on. The 49ers did lose Fred Warner, which I just want to talk about because he's such a good player. And he broke his ankle, so he's out. I think that changes the San Francisco's whole entire defense. Honestly,
Yeah,
I think they're going to be a lot more susceptible to the run and tight ends immediately because he's a great
he's
linebacker.
he's arguably the greatest linebacker in the league.
Hmm. So this is a big one because it just changes their defense. Now, I do believe I have faith in Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan to have it not like completely tank their defense, but I think it should hurt it pretty bad. So the San Francisco 49ers they weren't like the worst matchup you could possibly go against, but they had some pretty stout defense from time to time, and I think
Yeah,
this hurts it.
I think that it would be. I think it's much greater Fred Warner being out for the year than it would be if Brock Purdy was out for the year. I think that for better or worse, Fred Warner being out changes the Niners' offense for fantasy even more than Brock Purdy does.
Mhm.
It's like again, no disrespect to Purdy, but like Mac Jones can come in there and play the Purdy role all right and keep the team afloat. Fred Warner, just like him and Nick Bosa being gone, fundamentally changes the defense, and that's
100%.
just something that's
Mhm.
not going to be changed.
It could, in theory, be good for pass catchers on the 49ers. So George Kittle might come back this week.
Yeah,
And then you've got Jawan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne. Pearsall sounds like he's going to be out again, if I had to guess. Jawan Jennings is hurt. with Juwan Jennings, I can't tell if it's like actual full on injuries. I assume it is, but it could also be something to deal with his contract.
What do we think of Kendrick Bourne rest of the season? I mean, do we think he's just benefiting from the injuries because he's had two back to back great weeks.
Well,
Um,
okay, so at the beginning of the season, I had Juwan Jennings ranked pretty high prior to all the injuries that happened. And he was in a similar situation last year when he had his blow up games. It was because every single other player was out.
yeah,
If you don't believe that Juwan Jennings is the guy, then I wouldn't believe that Kendrick Bourne is the guy once the people come back. I think Pearsall coming back will be a big test, and Kittle coming back will also be a big test because that's Kittle's going to get the touchdowns.
Kittle. I think Kittle coming back. I think he's actually going to be coming back and like kind of like going. He's going to be playing where he was drafted at in the third round. I think that. I mean, even before he got injured in week one, I think it was week one. He looked really good in that game. I think he even had a touchdown. So I expect him to come back and be like that third, fourth round drafted player that's going to return value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that it helps Christian McCaffrey as far as running. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
not his receiving stats, but I think George Kittle's a pretty darn good run blocker. So I think it'll help open up a few more holes because Christian McCaffrey's running hasn't been particularly good, which is shocking in a Shanahan system.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
and I mean that also Kittle can have the big plays that will get them downfield and into the end zone faster. And I think CMC's an even bigger beneficiary than Kittle for that.
I do think if you have Kendrick Bourne right now, he is a great hold. He's someone you should play until like Pearsall and Kittle coming back. I think you could still play Kendrick as long as Juwan Jennings is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Once Juwan Jennings seems to be playing at like actual 100% or close to it, you're gonna watch Kendrick Bourne get phased out of the offense. And if Brandon Ayuk ever actually shows up again, which question mark, who knows? I wouldn't count on it.
No,
Um, then at that point, Kendrick Bourne is just going to be relegated to the bench, you know. But right now, if we don't hear news that Pearsall is playing and Juwan Jennings is hurt, which he's got 5 broken ribs, as he says,
Hmm.
you're going to want to play Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah,
Stay with
yeah.
it, you know. The Buccaneers. This one stinks. Emeka Egbuka hurt his hamstring. They don't sound like they're going to put him on IR.
I
But
I heard 2 to 3 weeks.
yeah, this stinks because he was such a huge breakout. Looked amazing for a rookie wide receiver. That team is fun to watch, and they are losing their players. They're going through a similar offensive purge as San Francisco, and it gets a little bit less play because they're not San Francisco. This hasn't happened year over year over year, but all of their offensive players are pretty much hurt. I mean, you got Mike Evans, he might come back. Godwin, who hurt his fibula again. It's just a crazy sounding injury. I don't really understand what happened. Um, and then Emeka Egbuka hurt his hamstring. Bucky's still out. I don't know what the prognosis on Bucky is and if he looks like he's close to coming back.
I don't know if he's like even. I don't think he's even limited at this point.
Yeah. So their offense is pretty gutted. However, it doesn't seem to matter for Baker Mayfield. He's still putting up points. If one of the Johnsons can come through, they will because Baker's having that sort of season.
I like. There's two players here. I think one is more obvious. I think Cade Otton is. I would say he's a streamable tight end option because we saw what he did last year, and he stepped up when I think it was when Godwin was out, and then before the team had Ibuka. So I think that he's definitely a streamable tight end and startable tight end if you need one. I am interested in Tez Johnson just because he's a rookie and he was great in college. I think he like owns some of Oregon's records for receptions in a season, or
I'll tell you this much. I went to one of the games with my kids, and Tez Johnson just dominated the game. You know, like he ended up going, I think, in the 7th round, so
Mhm.
almost no draft capital. But he comes in, has a huge catch, does a crazy backflip, gets Baker to talk about him post game. We get all the memes. It's an awesome story. And you know, Bucky probably knows him, so he's like, "Hey, Tez, that's my man. He's awesome. Trust
Yeah,
me."
yeah, and he seems like he had a very funny interview. Also, Tez Johnson is a half inch taller and like maybe 10 pounds heavier than me, which is crazy to me. I
He's not big. He is not a
no,
big
he's not.
dude.
He's not. He's got to
Uh,
be like one of the shortest wide receivers, in that like percentile. And then I also probably is the lightest player overall in the NFL as far as I can tell.
now here's one thing that this is me. I'm being optimistic. I'm going to tell anyone who listens to this. I'm being very optimistic. So this is not necessarily like a good analysis, but for someone that size to make it in the NFL, I think that says something good about like their work ethic and their ability to just get in the right spots at the right time.
Mhm.
And I think that if he pulls up, he really could. I mean, like look at Steve Smith, right? Steve Smith was a small dude, and he ends up being one of the toughest receivers out there, and he has a huge Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not saying that's on Tez Johnson. I'm just saying if you're that size and you're still making it, your
You
work ethic, your attitude, something is right, and it's gonna
you
work out
were
for you.
drafted based on your athletic profile, basically. You were
Yeah.
drafted because
Hmm.
you're extremely talented at what you do. Also, like another case in point, injury notwithstanding, but Tank Dell like also was very small,
Hmm.
very light, and he was having an incredible like borderline Pro Bowl career or Pro Bowl season before his injury. So um, I think it's a good point. He was taken. He wasn't just signed. He was drafted based off his talent as a
Hmm.
receiver. So,
Hmm.
in a team that is really losing their receivers constantly, and like there's a concern about depth in the long term, I think that he's at least worth looking at. Maybe picking up if you have space.
Yeah. Yeah. I did pick him up in my leagues because I want it to happen. But that's again, go Ducks.
But yeah,
How can you hate it? But again, I don't want to get anyone who listens to this. I'm not necessarily saying this guy is going to come out and be an immediate impact dude. I really want it to happen. If I could will it into being, he would be a Pro Bowl player immediately.
Mhm.
That's not what I expect. But he does have opportunity, and again, this is a guy who seems to know how to make opportunity work for him.
Mhm.
So you want a dart throw? Here's a pretty good one. Here's the unfortunate part about Tez, though, and I will be honest with this: is that if all of the wide receivers come back healthy, there's no way he's still a starter.
No,
It's just
unless
not
like
gonna happen.
and this is a big if there's a period of a couple weeks where there's more than one wide receiver starting wide receiver out, and he has like a game where he like really blows up, and maybe another
Mhm.
game where he like shows that he's consistent and solid and can play close to a number one role. Then there's obviously an opportunity, but he's still going to be boom or bust regardless. Um, it's
Yeah, and
just
it's
yeah,
worrisome with that size that we talked about. This is where the number one role is going to be always hard because can he take that many hits?
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
uh, it's crazy. He's really small. Like look it up. He's like 145 pounds. It's
Yeah.
insane. The Titans lost Calvin Ridley to a hamstring injury. They also again they immediately afterwards lost their coach. uh,
I I'm interested in Alec Aomanor if this offense gets better, which is a big if.
mhm.
Other than that, like it seems like Cam Ward spreads the ball around a lot. So if there's any like possible wide receiver one here, it's Aomanor, but it would have to take the offense taking a jump, and that's just a huge unknown right now.
Mike McCoy isn't a very good head coach. We've seen him do it with the Chargers, and he was fired after 3 seasons for a
Yeah.
reason. And the thing with me with Io Manners clearly skilled, but he looked a little lost out there.
Mm,
I think that again comes back to the coaching because he didn't really he would get into good spots, but it didn't look like that was the play they had planned. Cam Ward throws fast balls right now.
mm.
No one has really taught him like it looks like the touch that he needs to make this work. And I don't know. They have to come up with more creative play calling. It
It's
just
it's it's only up from here. Yeah.
yeah. Alec is definitely someone I'm interested in, but not overly interested in because this team has looked bad enough that here's the one that I think could potentially really benefit from this is Chiga Conquo if they start using him again. I just want like an upgrade of someone on this offense. Tony Pollard will probably get a little bit better. He can't get much worse.
Can't get much worse.
It's
um,
I don't want to talk about the Titans too much.
I do want to say this game real quick. I want to mention, and again, this was talked about at the beginning of the season, but it seems like it might be becoming more real now. Is Jacoby Myers trade request?
Yeah.
Apparently, he unfollowed the Raiders on Instagram and like took down everything relating to the Raiders on his socials, at least in his bio and stuff. Which is a lot of dealer receivers do this, but it seems significant based on what he said at the beginning of the season. It being a contract year and the Raiders' record right now. So
Yeah, and so this is no offense to Jacoby because he's been pretty professional the whole way through as a Raiders fan. Um, we don't need him because we're not going to be good enough to need him. You know what I mean? Like we might as well just see what the rookies can do and just keep throwing the ball over and over again. And Jacoby wanted trade,
yeah.
trade him. It sounds like he's gone because on the Wednesday practice he got a new phantom injury. If you recall, that's the same thing that happened to Devontae Adams right before he was traded. He all of a
Hmm.
sudden, oh, I hurt my hamstring. Oh, this is
Gone.
like a toe injury that he has now. And so yeah, I expect him to be traded. It'll probably either be the Bills or the Pats, is what I'm hearing. They're the
That's
ones that are
yeah.
shopping the hardest. If he goes back to the Patriots, that'd be hilarious.
It would be. Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean it'd probably be a pretty good fit.
I think the Commanders make the most sense, but I haven't heard any rumors about them yet.
They're probably mad about the trade they did.
Yeah.
The Bills. I mean, you if you could get the a wide receiver on the Bills, they'd probably do pretty good.
Maybe not for fantasy, but for the offense as a whole, yeah.
Okay, so then we have just the two more games, and that was the Bears Commanders. Um, I don't like Debo didn't do very good because he still had a heel injury, and I do believe they placed their wide receiver to Noah. I think
Noah
it's Noah
Brown.
Brown on
Yeah,
IR.
yeah.
Which clears the way for McLaurin to come back in and dominate if he can make it back on the field at any point.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what else you would get out of that. They started throwing some passes to Bill Krosky, but that was a pretty bad game for Bill Krosky. Uh, Unfortunately, like he didn't look necessarily terrible, but you can't fumble the ball or have the handoff in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
that
know if that was Jaden. I don't know if that was Bill Krosky, but someone hurt after that.
it was a little bit of both. I think it was Jaden handing off the ball poorly in the rain, and then Bill just not taking it at all. Definitely turned the tide of that game. I'm still shocked the Bears won that game. I that doesn't make any sense, especially of Jake Moody. I feel like Jake Moody being the kicker really canceled all that out. So it was so ironic that it just kind of happened. I think even if you had like one of the best, like if you had Cameron Dicker as your kicker, maybe they wouldn't have won because the Bears. It wouldn't have been ironic enough. The fact that it was Jake
Yeah.
Moody and they were such a close game that it was just kind of like canceled. It canceled each other out.
And DeAndre Swift going off. I mean,
Yeah,
I need to talk about this in a second, but he was one of my controversial sits. And sorry, guys, if you listen to that, my bad.
I mean, I was seeing him getting 10 points, but not like 108 yards.
No, he dominated.
Yeah.
All the running backs looked pretty good, honestly, in their own different ways. But DeAndre Swift is. We'll say this: Ben Johnson is figuring it out. It looks like, and when Ben Johnson figures something out, it's awesome for the offense. Because one thing you'll notice is that with DeAndre Swift, they didn't just run him up the gut anymore. They let
Mhm.
Monongai do that. Monongai looks a little bit more powerful. DeAndre Swift was going on the outside and just running past people.
And Ben Johnson's clock management is so good. At least, I mean, I'm comparing him to Matt Eberflus just as a one-to-one comparison. It's so good. Just the final drive, Caleb's final drive in that game was so good, and then Ben Johnson having it run out just enough to kick the game-winning field goal. Like it was lucky that the field goal happened, but at that point, it was like the Bears needed to go for it and like have that game-winning drive like play out
Mm-hmm.
instead of just like
Mm-hmm.
trying to go for a touchdown and taking that risk. Like they needed to run the clock out in order to like have a chance, at least in my opinion.
This is a big win for them too, because I think if they would have missed that kick or if something would have happened, this whole season would feel a lot different. This would feel like just like one of these seasons was like, okay, now we're heading into like let's just practice, let's get this thing
Well,
figured out, let's do this.
and it was the Commanders game last year, but they lost. That's when the whole tide of the team turned was after that Hail Mary. I mean, that's when they lost like 7 or 8 straight in a row. That was the game they lost. It was like, all right, now our chances of making the playoffs, even with our record, aren't looking great. And then it just went downhill from there.
Mhm.
So it was a good turnaround.
Yeah, this felt like a really important win for them, and it was a good win too. Not even a terrible loss for the Commanders. It was just a good win for the Bears.
It was
One of
a good
those.
game too.
Yeah. Bills Falcons. This is a game I didn't watch a ton of. I do know Bijan just destroyed the Bills, just 100% demolished them. And every time I watched the Bills on offense, it was clear that no one could catch the ball. Just no one was getting open.
It was weird. Also, the Falcons defense looks so good, and I feel like if they hadn't been shut out against the Panthers, then we would be talking about the Falcons as like one of the best top 10
Mhm,
teams in the league.
mhm.
But because of that wonky Panthers game, it's like you can't give them that much credit.
You have to hope that's just like Michael Penix just having his sophomore moment. He just came out. He's like, I forgot
Yeah, to play.
how to play the game for a day.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so that's the games from last week. The one thing I want to point out just real quick: So this week we've got the Bills and the Ravens out on bye. Next week, if you want to think about this, you've got the Jaguars, the Raiders, the Lions, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams, all on bye. So this is our first really big bye week. We've had some teams out, but now that we have multiple teams out, if you got someone who you want to pick them up now.
Pick him up this week. Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't wait because you're gonna have to get into a bidding war with a lot of other people. Everyone's gonna be missing someone, almost assuredly.
Yeah.
No one's gonna be missing any of the Raiders players. I promise you that. Uh, so we'll move on. I wanted to just talk about last week's picks real quick because I got to get this out of the way. It's been bugging me. So last week was easily my worst week for picks. Like it was catastrophically bad, and I just want to come out and say that I'm gonna own that. My nuclear boys were Saquon Barkley and Puka Nacua. Puka got injured, so it's hard for me to say that it was a complete fail. And then Saquon, who just stunk against the Giants.
If the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles were just bad.
Yeah, yeah.
It was cool for the Giants. I loved seeing the Cam Scatabo hat trick and
Mhm.
just the energy of that team. It's really good for Giants fans. It feels really exciting.
It just felt like the Eagles showed up, but they didn't really care, and the Giants just took advantage of it. They're like, "All right, cool,
Yeah,
gotcha."
weird game. I mean, it was fun.
I mean, your number one receiver is Dallas Goedert, who had 9 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. I'm not saying Dallas Goedert's bad, but I am saying you have AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, and you can't seem to make them the number one receivers.
And it wasn't like they were going against such a tough defense that that they AJ Brown and Devonta Smith were being blanketed. Like the secondary of the Giants is mediocre. It was just I don't know. They're a new offensive coordinator.
He's got some
Something's
things to figure out because I
yeah
mean, Saquon Barkley got 12 for 58. That's over 4 yards a rush, almost 5. You shouldn't just have 12 rushes at any point when you're
yeah.
hitting it like that. So I don't know. Um, Puka, of course, he got injured. I don't feel bad about the choice. I wouldn't say the choice was wrong. It just kind of stunk how it happened. If he would have got that one-handed catch over the defender, that would have been a highlight reel catch
Oh yeah.
forever. It was so close too. It was in his fingers. The ball had control, and then it just popped out right as he's going down. Um, but unfortunate. Uh, good starts gone great starts. I gave you Bill Krosky and Emeka Ibuka. Emeka got hurt.
Yeah.
Bill Crosby fumbled at least once, but probably twice. I count the handoff as his. To
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
they're not going to blame Jaden Daniels for that. There's no way it's Bill's fault.
No.
Um, he looked good, and then just had mistakes, and then they didn't use him very much.
He looked like a rookie. He didn't look bad. He didn't look
hmm
like he was a 7th round rookie. He just looked like a rookie.
hmm And it's unfortunate mistakes because they'll be what's remembered because that fumble really changed the game.
Yeah.
Gut checks. Troy Franklin. That Broncos Jets game was
Worst game of the year.
it's so stupid to wake up at such an early time on the West Coast. That's like 6:30 our time is when these games start, and then you watch that. It was insulting to my intelligence.
At least we have Rams Jaguars next week. That should be a good game.
Yeah, that's true. That'll be interesting because they actually both have good defenses, and Matt Stafford with only Devontae Adams might equal Trevor Lawrence with all of his starters. So maybe.
Well,
I gave you Calvin Ridley as a gut check. Also, he got hurt.
got hurt. Yeah.
Everyone I chose, they got hurt. That's my bad, guys. Sorry. But then my controversial sits, they didn't get hurt. DeAndre Swift, like I said earlier, he did amazing. And then Travis Etienne, he did fine.
He was fine.
Yeah.
My nuclear boys, I just picked the wrong guy, I think. So with QJ out, I was super high on Keenan Allen, and it ended up being that McConkey that had another huge game. So that was just kind of a coin flip mistake. Jonathan Taylor, he was kind of a cop out answer for a nuclear boy. Of course, he was great. Rashad White, good start, great start. He showed up. Xavier Worthy, I don't know why I'm blanking. I don't remember if he had a good game or not.
That's pretty fair. I think he had an okay game. I think that's why you're not remembering it. He had,
What do you have here?
I don't know, I'm popping over my stats right now.
Two
2 for 20 and a
and a
touchdown though. So
okay. Oh yeah, so he was still a good flex play. Gut check. Zay Flowers. That Ravens team is just bad.
They stink right now.
Rashid Shaheed was just kind of a guy, just a jag. And then I did call the Browns tight end, so I'm excited for Harold Fannin in the future. And then I had Jalen Warren didn't have a terrible game. Is my controversial sit, but had a pretty mediocre game. So you could have definitely had a better play than him. And then I do want to kind of defend myself here. I said Darren Waller, and Darren Waller did have, I think, 11 points, but it all came off of one touchdown. So if he hadn't have a touchdown, he would have been not playable.
Willie, real quick, I have a question in the chat for you.
Yeah.
If a
Uh,
phone,
if I had a phone charger in my room and my girlfriend's phone was at 2%, would I be willing to give that up? Perhaps, perhaps.
uh,
The answer is yes, and it's in here somewhere. Well, while I go take the phone charger, how about you start off your list this week? Hopefully
yeah,
that you
yeah.
only 4 to go, but up.
Okay, so this week I am going to start off with my nuclear boys. They are almost assuredly going to do better than the last one. So the first one I'm throwing at you guys is Javonte Williams of the Dallas Cowboys. Now I didn't think he would ever end up as a nuclear boy, but here we are. And I just after watching what DeAndre Swift did to the Commanders and knowing how strong Dallas's offensive line is, I can see them once again getting ran all over. So Javonte Williams is kind of my first pick here. I also don't think he can just keep going through the air to Pickens. I think he's going to have a good week, but he's not going to, be able to explode like he did.
He's not going to get a touchdown every single week.
No, and Javonte wants to come back into the fold.
Yeah,
And then Roma Dunze. So of course, this is the Bears wide receiver one. They're going against the Saints. The Saints, who are shockingly competitive during the games, even if they manage to lose all of them.
they definitely have not been one of the. They've been one of the worst teams, but they haven't.
Yeah, they look like there's some competency hidden underneath the mess that's going on. So I do believe that Roma Dunze is going to have a great game because I think the Saints will keep it close enough that they have to keep throwing, but they don't have a good enough defense to stop Roma Dunze. And this is where we see if DJ Moore is out, particularly,
And
Rome just get hyper targeted.
and Rome would have had another great game last week if he had gotten that touchdown in the end zone. There was that kind of controversial.
Oh, and it was such a good catch too.
Theo Benedict was like, I think they said he was offsides because he was just like his helmet was just behind the line of scrimmage, or like it was just barely out. It was just ridiculous, and it was a great pass.
Yeah,
So,
that was awesome, and it got called back. I think Rome is gonna make you forget that he had a bad week last week.
yeah,
He's gonna do fantastic.
I like that.
Go ahead with your nuclear boys.
So my nuclear boys, rather. My first one is somebody that similar to Rome last week could have had a better game, but then Jaden Daniels threw a pick in the end zone. I think that against the Cowboys in particular, the Commanders are going to want to get Debo more involved, both passing and possibly rushing as well. I just feel like that Debo kind of had a disappointing game last week. The Commanders are in win now mode with a 3-3 record in a divisional game, and I think Debo could be a big beneficiary of the Commanders just really just showing out this week, basically. Actually, now that I said that, I think I put Debo in. I meant to put him in good starts, gone great starts, but he was kind of on the fringe for me. So I'll mention a couple other nuclear boys real quick. Number one is Baker Mayfield, partially just because of the matchup going against the Lions. I feel like it's going to be a shootout. I feel like Baker's going to have to get more involved with his legs if the receivers, if there's still so many out. So I could see him getting maybe a rushing touchdown, and he just seems matchup proof regardless. Like he's shown out every single week. He's been a great fantasy quarterback, and I think just against the Lions, it's going to be such a high-powered offensive game that Baker's a must start. And then my last nuclear boy is Devontae Adams. This one's just kind of self-explanatory. Even though it's in London against the Jags defense, that's maybe not against the pass, but there's still a high-end defense. He is just going to get so many targets. That's a lock. If Puka's out, it's a lock. He's going to get so many targets that his floor is unbelievably safe, and I think his ceiling is definitely in play too.
Yeah, the Jaguars have a fantastic rushing defense. They've got a pretty good turnover differential, but their passing defense, as far as yards per game allowed, is one of the bottom in the league. So I think that's wonderful. I think there's definitely room for them to have someone there. Also,
Yeah.
I want to say the Lions are going to be without Brian Branch because of that
Oh, right.
awesome brawl that he got into. And I only say that because I dislike the Chiefs. Um,
We've all wanted to smack Juju Smith-Schuster on Monday Night Football.
this isn't new. This isn't new. He just finally did it for us.
Thanks.
But yeah, I like these picks a lot. Um, oh man, yeah, Devontae's gonna kill it. You know they're gonna score touchdowns. Although the one thing that does worry me is that London is basically a home game for the Jaguars.
Yeah, basically. But even in a home, I mean, even in an away game, the Rams are they're still decent.
Hmm okay, so my first good start, gone, great start is going to be Travis Kelsey. So they're going against the Raiders. They get Rashee Rice back. That's an easy, like, okay, here we go. This is the Rashee Rice is going to come out here and dominate. But I will tell you this: the one thing that's always been true in this matchup between the Raiders and the Chiefs is that Travis Kelsey scores a touchdown
Hmm.
pretty much every game, and I don't expect that to be different this game. So Travis Kelsey is going to be a phenomenal start. The Chiefs already can't run the ball, and the Raiders actually have a pretty good run defense, so there's no issue there. But you can take advantage of their mid game, and that's where Travis Kelsey loves to sit.
And I feel like the Raiders defense are also going to be keying in on how to stop Rashee Rice coming back this week and what he's going to look like in the game plan. And they might get so wrapped up in that Travis
Hmm
Kelsey gets a
hmm
chance to get more open.
Yeah, and the linebacking group for the Raiders isn't particularly good. I know that Devin White had like a pretty okay game stat wise, but it wasn't like anything special.
Yeah,
And you know they've been bleeding players, they've been losing players who are jumping ship to go to winning teams.
yeah,
So I just see Travis Kelsey coming in here and having at the very least a good game, but I think he could have a great game. Um,
I like it.
Quinshon Judkins, I think he bounces back against the Dolphins.
Oh yeah,
Because the Browns cannot have Dylan Gabriel pass over 50 times.
yeah. And
It
there's no reason to, even if it's a close game. Like the Dolphins' run defense is so bad that Quinshawn is just he's going to have to feast.
Yeah, and Quinshon is just he's a very skilled player. If you watch him, he knows how to pick the lanes. The
Mm.
Dolphins are going to give him lanes. I think he's going to get one, maybe I'm hoping, I'm projecting hope into the world right now. Maybe two long touchdowns. Like I could easily see it because of his skill set. And if the Browns do actually want to win games, as opposed to just seeing how many times their quarterback can throw an incompletion, they're going to want to give Quinshon Judkins the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Although, with that said, Shador Sanders is the quarterback too this week, so something funky might happen. I do have a third one for you, and that is Stephon Diggs. And so it's the Patriots versus the Titans, and the Titans are really bad against the runs. You'd think, oh, that's Ramondre. Oh, that's Travion Henderson. I'm not doing that again. We're not going there again until they prove that they can do it. They're off my list. But I will tell you this: Mike Vrabel, especially based on what we heard now, is gonna want to run up the score on these guys.
Yeah.
They will not stop passing just because they are up. He will beat them, and he will beat them with prejudice.
Yep.
So I think Stephon Diggs is going to be a beneficiary because they can't cover the wide receiver one. Titans stink.
No, they stink, and I think that yeah, like you said, regardless if the Patriots are already heavily favored, but like you said, I think Vrabel's going to really want to drive home how much he resents this team for firing him.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that you're right. And I think Drake may could also have another awesome game because of it.
Yeah. 100%.
Are those your boys? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, those are my gas guys.
I got two. I got two more gas guys as well. My first one, and this is kind of because of it wanting to be a bounce back kind of game. And he only had 2 points last week and probably the worst game of the season. But I think Cortland Sutton is due for another huge game. We've seen him; he's had like two pretty awful games this season, and everything else has been at least 15 points. So I think that coming back from his really bad game in London, I think against New York, Cortland Sutton definitely has a very safe floor. I think he's going to come back and get a touchdown and maybe close to 100 yards. I just feel like the game script favors him in this matchup. And my other nuclear boy is where was he there? Oh, so kind of for similar logic, the Eagles defense hasn't been great this year. Their secondary has been pretty good, but it seems like they've been the secondary that have keyed in on the wide receiver one, which in this case for the Vikings is Justin Jefferson. So I think Jordan Addison's going to come back off the bye and just have another get right game where he shows what he's capable of as arguably a wide receiver two or a wide receiver one on a wide receiver two role team. So I like Addison this week to have a great game.
I want to pop in a question that I want because two of your gas guys are on this question. Okay,
Okay.
so half point PPR, sit one Sutton, Debo, BTJ, or Brees Hall.
Who are the Jets playing this week?
So the Jets this week they are playing the Panthers, and the Jaguars are of course playing the Rams.
Okay. I would probably sit BTJ just primarily because it's a London game. The Rams defense is really good. Their secondary isn't great, but like I said, I think Sutton and Debo have a really high ceiling this week. And Brees Hall with Garrett Wilson out, this team has no offensive identity at all, and their best offensive player very easily right now is Brees Hall. So it's kind of close, but I'd probably sit BTJ.
Yeah, I don't disagree heavily. To me, it was also between Brees Hall and BTJ, and it's kind of a coin flip. I think that the Rams defense is better than the Panthers defense, and that's where I lean. Is that the Rams could really just stop Trevor Lawrence and this offense passing at least because Liam Cohen has not seemed to be able to pull together a whole entire passing attack.
Yeah.
Whereas Brees has to get volume. They
Yeah.
don't have a choice. I don't think it's going to look pretty, but don't worry about the way it looks. Worry about the end result.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other gas guys? Good starts going. Great starts.
No, not right now.
Yep. My gut checks for the week. The first one I'm going to start off with. This is kind of just. I don't want to hype him too much, but I see the path here, and that is Jalen Coker. And he may not play, so I can't tell you for sure he's going to start. It looks like he will. He had full practices last week. He started off this week with a full practice. The 21-day window's open, so it's either this week or next week that he starts. But this week would be a wonderful time for him to start. So if you don't know Jalen Coker, he is the wide receiver 2 for the Panthers, and they're going against the Jets. The Jets have been great at covering the wide receiver 1 on a team. For the Panthers, that's Tedero and McMillan. But the wide receivers 2s against the Jets have gone off over and over and over, except for last week.
Nobody went off that game though.
That Broncos Jets game was ugly.
Yeah.
But so Coker is someone who had a lot of hype in the preseason. He seemed like he was primed for a big role on this team, and then he injured his hamstring right before week 1. We haven't seen him in week action yet. However, this is the perfect starting place for him. I know that he's hard to start. I understand that. But if you are at a loss and you have him sitting there, I think this is a great week for him to go off. They can really bring him back in.
If Corker doesn't play this week, who on the Panthers would you consider to be a startable wide receiver too?
Well, so your options basically become Leggett and Renfro. Renfro, who is I love Renfro. You already know that, but his role is not defined in this offense at all. It's like he comes in every once in a while to do something really important, and he does it, and then they're just like, "Okay, now back to the bench with you." And Leggett, who can sometimes look amazing, and other times just drops the ball over and over again.
I would almost lean Renfro over Leggett. I just have, like
Yeah.
Leggett has not had any big plays this season.
And I'm pretty close to that. And there's one player who I need to double check and see if he's actually playing. So he's limited Wednesday because the player I would actually love to play out over those two is Jatavian Sanders. But that's only if he's there. So this becomes just a question of who is actually available. If Jatavian and Coker are out, I'm going to go Leggett just because he's got more explosive ability than Renfro, and Renfro, despite how much I love him, is just not getting the role that he needs to pop off for you.
Yeah.
But I do think whoever's the secondary receiver here is going to do well. And if Jalen Coker comes back this week, I know everyone's going to want to sit him and watch him. Myself included. But I do expect him to have an okay game at the very worst. Harold Fannin Jr. is my second gut check, and this is much less. I have 2 Browns on this list, which is a scary sign for me. Harold Fannin Jr. going against the Dolphins because Njoku's gone and Dylan Gabriel starting. I don't think that there's any other reason that I need. I don't actually care what team they're going against. The Dolphins are a great team for this. But with Dylan Gabriel and the tight end 1 role completely locked up on a guy who has shown to be productive already, I think he's going to have a fantastic game.
I think so too. I mean, I like I said earlier, I think he's my favorite, at least in terms of upside. He's my favorite offensive player to start on the Browns, regardless of matchup. And as bad as the Dolphins are, the Browns offensively aren't much better at all. They're worse offensively, so it's still going to be
Hmm.
a close game.
Hmm.
But they're still going to be passing, even if they cut Dylan Gabriel's passing attempts in a half or even a third. He's still going to be passing the ball enough to get fan and volume.
Yeah, I mean, and who else on that team? Jerry Judy's not going to do it. I just don't believe Jerry Judy can do it. Um, so it's maybe Isaiah Bond. Maybe this is an Isaiah Bond time, but I'm betting on Harold Fannin pretty
Yeah,
strongly. Out of all of them, Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins, those are the two players I'd start on this team, and almost no one else. I have a third one. I don't know what got into me this week. I'm just feeling it. Okay, this isn't a good reason, and I'm sorry, listeners, but I think T Higgins is going to have a game. I think he's actually going to come up and he's going to score something here, and I think it's because we're all leaving him for dead. This is when it happens. This is when T Higgins strikes, and he's going to be TD Higgins. Um, there's not a much better reason than that. I think the Steelers are a really well run team, especially on defense, regardless of who's there. And I think they know that the biggest problem they have is Jamar Chase.
yeah.
And there's no reason to believe that anyone else is a threat. And that's when T. Higgins comes out and says, "Ha ha,
I mean,
gotcha."
I like T Higgins more this week than I have any week since Joe Burrow got injured, simply because Joe Flacco looked really bad in the Packers game first half and then really came alive second half. And I think that like he was traded to the Bengals. I mean, he started right after, so he's had over a week now to kind of acclimate to this offense. I think that the passing attack is going to look better than it has in a bit. So yeah, I mean, T Higgins he could be really bad, but he's probably not going to be as bad as he was.
And I'm more optimistic. I think he's actually gonna have a pretty good game. Um, throw me your gut checks.
I got checked. So one is a player that I almost started last week, and I'm really glad I didn't because he had -10 passing yards, net passing yards. That's Justin Fields. But Fields, almost especially with Garrett Wilson out, every single week he's either had a great game or a bad game, and he just keeps like flip flopping. And last week he had an awful game, which to me suggests that this week he could have an incredible game against the Panthers. I, I feel like his great games have coincided with either getting in a rhythm in terms of passing and connection with Wilson, or when he actually uses his legs. And I just feel like against the Panthers, he's going to have more opportunity to show out against the defense and not just play to stay in the game, but actually play to maybe win. I don't think they will, but I like Fields this week as a startable quarterback, in my opinion. And then my other guy is really kind of a random gut check. I'm just this is really a gut check, and I'm mostly saying him because um, last time I said he was going to score a touchdown, he did, and that's Jonnu Smith. Um, I think Kelvin Austin is out again. I don't think we're just going to be seeing the DK Jalen Warren show every week with the Steelers. I feel like this is going to be a closer game than it was against the Browns last week. So the Steelers offensively are going to have to spread the ball around more. And I don't know, Jonnu's getting the targets. He hasn't really produced a whole lot, but he's still getting 4, 5, 6 targets a game on average. And he's only had the 1 week where he got that touchdown where he's shown out, and I just think he's going to do it again this week.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel it. I am way worried about Justin Fields without Garrett Wilson, but I do think that your path to success is him running the ball here.
And against the Panthers too. That's
Hmm. Hmm. As long as he doesn't pull a Penix
he might.
like TJ Moore. I'm sorry. We're gonna. So the gut checks. I'm gonna go with my controversial sits now, and all my controversial sits are running backs. So get ready, guys.
Oh,
I'm starting off with Ashton Genty of the Raiders. He's your first round pick. I know that you're not going to want to sit him, but the Chiefs' defense has consistently been really good at taking away top options. And with the Raiders, there's nobody that's a top option except for Genty. So I think they're going to focus hard on the run to make Geno Smith try to beat them in the air.
yeah, which is not
And
a recipe for success.
no, Geno Smith hasn't proven that he can do that at all this season. So I think that Genty is going to just face boxes after box after box after box. His only path to relevance is a ton of receptions, and I don't even see that happening. I think they're going to have people there. So I think you're going to want to shy away from Ashton Genty if you can.
Yeah.
And then I have maybe what's a cop out. I'll name them if I need to, but all running backs in the Seahawks Texans game. Two very good run defenses going against each other. Um, I just I see success in the passing games for both of these teams, and almost no success in the running games. The Seahawks have, despite having two potential starting running backs in Charbonnet and Walker, they've looked really bad running the ball lately.
Yeah,
And the Texans, of course, they're starting Nick Chubb and Woody Marks.
not
It's not a
nothing.
good combination against a good run defense.
And regardless of matchup, it's not nothing to get excited about.
Hmm.
I do want to point out how weird it is that I initially in the offseason I was super high in Charbonnet and super low on Walker, and so far my my prediction has been correct because Zach Charbonnet's gotten so many more opportunities. He's just looked so much worse than Kenneth Walker. It's almost like a Ramondre Trayvon situation. So he is getting the opportunities, like I said, but he's just not producing. So
It's wild because there was that moment when Charbonnet was out that Ken Walker looked pretty good,
yeah,
and then they just went back to the split. And now neither of them look good. The Seahawks, which I think they're run pretty well at this point. I mean, they seem to be. They're doing pretty well. They're gonna have to make a choice between these two guys eventually.
well, and I will say, I think part of it, the offensive line looks a lot better than I expected it to, and I think that well, Kenneth Walker's a free agent, I believe, after the season, so they're clearly leaning towards Charbonnet. So maybe that's why they're giving him more opportunity, which doesn't make sense. But um, I will say that if one of these guys does unfortunately get injured, the other one is going to be startable every week,
Hmm.
regardless of
Hmm.
matchup.
Hmm. And that's so you can't really drop either of them. Unfortunately, they're both kind of unplayable territory for me right now. But in particular this week, don't I wouldn't play them, and I also wouldn't play anyone on the Texans. Nick Chubb and Woody Marks, if you have the opportunities to go ahead and bench those guys, this is a bad matchup for both teams.
Yeah. My controversial sits as one is it's kind of I'm maybe sort of slightly biased saying this as someone who picked up Hassan Haskins over Kamari Vidal, but here's the thing about Kamari Vidal. He could have a great game. He seems like he's the top back in Los Angeles, but if the whole Arizona Cardinals running back by committee, whatever snafu that was, is any indication, I just don't trust a team with a injured star running back and whoever they're trotting out behind him. Like again, Vidal had a great game. I think he had 114 yards. It was against the Dolphins, and now they're going up against the Colts, which are a team that, I mean, the Chargers struggle against the Dolphins. It was a very close game. I just see the Colts more or less dominating this game, at least from the get go, and I just don't see the Chargers relying on the run against this run defense. So again, I could totally eat my words. Vidal could have another at least solid game, but also I could see him not being the lead back this game, and we're just getting like 2, 3, 4 points. So you can start him if you're desperate. If I had him on my team, I would probably start him because I don't have any running backs right now. But he's not someone I would get excited about at all. And then my last controversial sit, and this is just one that he's somebody I defended. Is like, okay, maybe it will get better. Maybe it will get better. I mean, I've given up on Chase Brown. I just have. I unless you're going up against like the Dolphins, I just there's no reason to get excited about ever starting him against the Steelers, who are kind of a middle of the road run defense. Doesn't even matter. And we just haven't seen anything. He's just his inefficiency is just reckless.
I think what I'm looking for with Chase Brown is after this week, because Pittsburgh is a well-run team. You have the Jets and you have Chicago, and I think those are two games where I don't want to say could go off because I think that's putting too much emphasis on the upside, but I think he could have solid weeks, and he might actually end up in the end zone again on one of those 2 weeks.
I think that if he in those 2 weeks and he has bad games against those teams, then I think that the team has to move away and start Taj Brooks or P Ryan or somebody like that. If he's bad again, at least if he's shows what he's been showing already against the Jets and the Bears, just he's not startable in real life or in fantasy.
Well, see, I thought against the Packers personally, I thought he ran pretty well. I mean, they just only gave him 9 runs, but he had a 4.7 yard per carry. And then Joe Flacco just wasn't passing to him. He wasn't checking down, or
Oh,
when he was, it was P Ryan in the game.
and that's why you drafted Chase Brown is because of the checkdowns, and he's not even
Hmm.
getting that. So
But I thought he looked more competent as a runner against the Packers than I would have guessed, and that could be a Joe Flacco effect. But I mean, it's hard to see it successful. The only good news with Chase Brown is that the other players haven't looked better.
It's true. That's true.
So there's a net gain for switching at this point. Gosh, the Bengals stink.
The Ravens are like making them look better though.
Yeah, yeah, they are. That's true. I so we talked about maybe giving our top 5 offenses and defenses. We're about an hour 15 right now.
Um, I was talking about maybe like who I think are the best teams overall in the league right now.
Sure. Okay.
I could rattle mine off. I was thinking about this a little bit, and I'm just going to share my top 5 and kind of maybe point out who I think are the best rest of season fantasy players on each team. So I think the best team in the league right now is the Buccaneers, and it's kind of a cop out answer, but I think Baker Mayfield is the best player rest of season because as great as the individual receivers have looked, there is going to be a point where all three of them are on the field again, and we just don't know who the alpha is going to be. And we could start to see more of a boomer bust receiving core, but that does not affect Baker at all. I could also put Bucky here, but again, like we don't know about his injury, so I think the Bucks are the best team in the NFL. I think Baker's leading the MVP race, and I think that I think he's going to just be an incredible fantasy quarterback every week, rest of the season. I think at least. I also think the Colts are probably the second best team in the league right now, best team in the AFC, which is crazy. I think clearly Jonathan Taylor is rest of season. He's matchup proof. He's looking into becoming an offensive player of the year kind of candidate. The other 3 teams I think I would put in here, no particular order. I think the Chiefs are looking great. They're 3-3, but they've lost some close games, unlike last year, and they're getting Rashee Rice back. Mahomes is QB1, I think, in fantasy right now, which is pretty crazy. I see his at least his floor, but maybe his ceiling even continuing to rise just with getting Rice back. And then the Lions, take your pick of this is just great skill position players all along or all around. And for my 5th, who I think is the 5th best team in the league right now, you could almost take any of the NFC West teams that aren't the Cardinals. The Niners are impressive, just how many games they've won with the amount of injuries they have. The Rams have looked good, but I think they could be better. I honestly think you could make the argument that the Seahawks are a top 5 team right now, and that's a lot in part because of coaching and defense. But in terms of fantasy, I mean JSN, there's the reason they won a couple games is because of JSN, and I think that I think we talked about before, he has the upside to be wide receiver 1 in fantasy, especially Puka missing a game. Like it's closer than it was before, and he's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think the Seahawks were a choice for me because if you look at the games that they lost, so they lost to the Buccaneers, who, you know,
Best team in the league.
they're phenomenal, and then they lost. Where's the second loss? Where
I
did
think it
it
was week
go?
1 against the Niners.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. And that was before all the Niners were completely destroyed.
Yep, it was a divisional game, week 1, Sam Darnold's first start, and and the Niners weren't injured. So
those are 2 good teams that they lost to. So it's not like the losses are bad. And they they've beat they beat the Jaguars.
mhm.
They of course beat the hapless Cardinals. Who cares really? They destroyed the Saints, and the Saints, like I said, have looked competitive
Yeah,
except for that game where they just came out and dominated them.
yeah,
And they beat the Steelers. They dominated the Steelers, and the Steelers have also been pretty good. So I don't disagree. I I think in our NFC West episode of our preseason, I think I called the Seahawks as the winners of the division, and I feel okay about it
yeah.
because
I would.
they just look so good. And how do they manage to stay so competent? How come the Raiders get all of the Seahawks cast offs and we can't even figure out how to do a quarter of what they do?
No disrespect to Pete Carroll, but I think Mike McDonald really just might be him. Like he seems like just like an incredible coach. And injuries notwithstanding in Baltimore, I think since he left, the defense has regressed, especially this year with the injuries. But even last year, there was a change, at least a slight step down. And McDonald just looks like a very competent head
Mhm.
coach.
Yep, he does. Um, I think we're pretty close. So the best team, it's easy. It's the Bucks right now. I don't think you can really argue it at this moment. Injuries might hurt them, but overall for the whole season, I think they're great. I really want Bucky to come back because I think Bucky again on this team would be just dominating right now for fantasy purposes. It's kind of a shame that he's not there.
Yeah.
After that, and they've got a weird record right now. I'm still going with the Packers as my second team. They've had like some slip ups. They've tied the Cowboys, but the Cowboys are they're so petty and they've got such a weird team that I don't even know that I count it. And then losing to the Browns, that feels like a fluke, if anything. So other than that, I still think they have the potential to have the most dominant defense and an amazing offense.
They're at the very least they're the one of the most well-rounded teams.
hmm Um, after that, it gets a little shaky for me because I want to say the Colts, but I still feel like the wheels could fall off at any time.
Yeah.
Um, which is a hard thing to say for the third best team in the league. You know what I'm saying? And then with the Broncos, we just saw them have the stinkiest game I've ever seen against the Jets. Like it was just it scared me because Bo Nix could clearly still come out and just stink it up. The Chiefs really might be that third best team, and I hate that because their defense is really good and
Mhm.
Mahomes is running a ton. And after that, I'm going to go Lions,
Mhm.
and I'll also go with Seahawks because I agree with you. I think the Seahawks will just look really competent the whole way through with high end play from certain players
Yep.
that just kind of puts them over that edge.
The defense really it took the leap that we had that we saw them upside wise. If the defense takes this leap, then they actually could really be competitive, and the defense just took every leap possible. Especially Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle out of Texas. He's looked all pro worthy. He's looked incredible.
And then the other big question mark, Sam Darnold. He's been phenomenal, really.
Yeah.
He's filled that Geno Smith long pass role, passing down the field and connecting on long touchdowns. And not only has he done that, but he's also been really accurate and competent at the medium and the short game. So Sam Darnold has come in and proven that the Minnesota year wasn't just like some complete fluke.
No,
He
no.
actually is talented, which that's all you need. Bottom five teams. Who do you got?
I think the worst team in the NFL right now is the Titans. Like I
Yeah.
said, the Jets are my second worst team pick, but I think really what's holding the Jets back is Justin Fields. At least the Jets defense at times has looked pretty competent. Like they nearly beat the Bucks. They had a really good game. Like I know they lost, but they had a really good game. The Titans have not had any game where they've looked good. There's no part besides Jeffrey Simmons. There's no good players on this team. So I think they're clearly the worst team. I think the Dolphins are the third worst team. I just it's just pathetic. um, and I would say that at least offensively they have some juice, even though Tua's looked bad. I would say they're worse than the fourth worst team in my opinion, which is the Browns. Um, at least the Browns have their defense, and they had a great rookie draft. So there's a lot to be excited about in Cleveland, is at least coming compared to coming into the season. And I guess I would put my fifth worst team is the Saints, but I really think there's a big gap between the Saints and the Browns. I think that the Saints have been competitive. I think Spencer Rattler's looked pretty decent. Um, and I think that if they had more talent on this team and Kellen Moore had more experience as their head coach and was more acclimated to this team, I think that they could have won a couple games that they lost. And I think they could have, been competitive in the NFC South. Like this is maybe a lost year, but they really don't have that much talent. So I don't want to say they're one of the worst teams because it really comes down to a talent issue.
And one of the teams I'm gonna say here is the Raiders, and I feel like the
Yeah.
same way. It's kind of a talent issue. Like, I don't know that it's all bad. It's just the Geno Smith one has come out and just completely regressed. I don't. Maybe this is just who he was. Maybe he just had some wonder years in Seattle for 2 years in a row. But he has looked like a completely awful player. Honestly, like not even really good enough to be a backup at this point. But
Oh,
and we're locked in with him, so he'll play. I think he'll play the whole season.
yeah.
But we're not the worst team. It is Titans is the worst team. I don't think there's any guess around that. For me, the second worst team right now is the Cardinals, and losing Kyler Murray and just looking completely inept. I mean, honestly, they just look completely inept. The third worst team is the Jets. I don't. I don't see how Justin Fields can succeed in this offense. I just don't get it. And they need to trade Brees Hall, but trading Brees Hall is going to just completely lose all of the talent they have left on that offense.
Yeah, I think if Garrett Wilson hadn't gotten injured, maybe there would be a higher possibility. But
Hmm.
I don't know.
Hmm. And the this is where it gets a little bit more dicey because there's a lot of arguments you can make for a few different teams here. I'm going to go with the Raiders as the third worst team simply because the when Geno Smith can't hit a downfield pass, they can't do anything. The
Yeah,
whole game plan just grinds to a halt. We've seen them capable of running with Ashton Genty against soft run defenses, but as soon as you face a run defense that's even kind of hard, they can't get a single thing going.
no,
So I don't think that this team it has enough talent in certain areas, especially the offensive line. But I also think that they aren't game planning particularly well right now.
yeah,
So it's a two-prong issue. And then with Geno Smith, if you toss 3 interceptions, it's just over. Like, come on. And see, this is where I'm torn a little bit because I actually want to say my fourth worst team is the Ravens because of how bad they've been defensively. Uh, their defense has just been so awful that they can't mask it. It doesn't matter how good your offense is. Your defense is so bad that they can't stop a single person anywhere.
yeah. I
They've
think I was gonna say I think that if Lamar hadn't started all but like 1 or 2 games, I think they would definitely be a bottom 3 team because
mhm,
offensively they're abysmal without him, and defensively they're already bad.
mhm. um so yeah, the Bengals, and then I want to say Dolphins because I agree with you that they have been bad and the coaching has looked bad, but they have looked a little better. But I do think they run into some of the issues that the Raiders run into, and that's whenever they get something going, Tua makes a really stupid mistake and just
Yep.
completely derails their momentum.
I think him and Gino are leading the league in interceptions.
That's yeah.
And the thing is that the Dolphins should not have lost to the Panthers and the Chargers. They had all the opportunities to win, so at least they were in position to win. So that doesn't make them an awful, awful team. But the fact that they
Mhm.
lost just makes them one of the worst, I think.
It's just yeah, and it stinks because Tua, as we saw last year, is very important to the timing of this offense. So it's not like you can just go like, okay, we'll just replace him. I mean, Zach Wilson maybe I don't know. It's confusing because Tua can look amazing and then just completely just crap out.
Yeah,
Like he'll just throw the stupidest pick. And then you're left there going like, how are you a starting quarterback? But then you've watched the other 3 quarters of him making amazing passes to Jalen Waddle, wide open or Waller. Um, but I am going to abdicate on the Dolphins here, and I will go instead with the Saints. And I do agree with you. They've been competitive, but they just don't have the talent to actually make it past any of the top end teams. They're just not going to be able to do it.
yeah.
Um, so there's to it. They're just not good enough. Though they might get there.
All their best talent is old too.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, there's a lot of teams that need to trade some players, and I know this is the NFL, so they won't, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. You got anything else?
Not really. What do you think is your what game? Well, I'll end here. What game are you most excited about this upcoming week?
This upcoming week, I am actually shockingly excited about the Steelers Bengals. I really want to see if the Bengals have anything, and I think this is where I can really see because they don't have to do phenomenal, but they faced a kind of really rough schedule as far as defenses go. And the Steelers, while still a good defense, aren't great defense. And I just want to see something from them. Because if I see something from them in anyone that's not Jamar Chase, then I might start feeling a little bit better about this offense as far as an NFL offense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I mean, besides that, Buccaneers Lions, that one has the most potential to be just a shootout, fun game to watch.
I think that one's probably looks like the most entertaining. Although the Commanders Cowboys could also be an awesome game.
Yeah, that's a
Especially
divisional game too.
divisional game, yeah. And also I do kind of want to see the Sunday night Falcons Niners. I think if the Falcons come out and even with the injuries, I think if the Falcons come out and dominate the Niners, I think it could be kind of a statement win in the sense that the Falcons are starting to look like a legit team. And if they beat, the Niners again, injuries notwithstanding, if they come out and beat the Niners, like they're having a case to be a pretty solid wild card NFC South threat. So
Bijan's gonna kill him without Fred Warner.
yeah, that too.
Uh, I I would love to watch the Colts beat down the Chargers.
I wouldn't, but I would. And not as I like the Chargers, but it would be fascinating to see the Colts really continue this momentum into Week 7. Like I was hesitant after Week 2, and the fact that we're at Week 7 and they have this potential to continue is surprising.
At the very least.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's. I also talk about Texans Seahawks. I am curious to see this battle of the defenses because that's really what it seems to be.
Yeah.
Anyways, you know how it is. It's like I had one of my least favorite weeks of fantasy football ever this last week. Week 6 was a total nightmare for me. I just really did not enjoy this week of football. However, then I look at week 7, I'm like, "Oh man, look at all these games. This is going to be great. Like I can watch almost any of these games." And that's the issue. I can't stop. Someone help me.
I won't.
Yeah. I think that's all I got. How about you?
That's all I got. I'm
All right,
ready. Like
let's doink out.